We're so excited that you've joined us for today's live stream presented by rvtravel.com. Today's program will begin shortly. While we allow some time for others to join, we want to take care of a few housekeeping items. Everything presented in this live stream is true to the very best of our knowledge and experience, but we are human. Occasionally, we might be wrong. We don't want you spending thousands of dollars simply because we said something was good or fixing something according to what we suggested. Do your research, check your owner's manual, and seek assistance from your vetted and trustworthy certified RV technician.
So during our live stream, it's only going to get better if you participate. We'd love to hear from YOU. So while you're tuning into the show, please let us know what kind of rig you have, where you currently reside, if you're a part-timer, if you're a full-timer, and most importantly, what technical questions can we help you with? Feel free to submit your questions throughout the show. You can even start that right now.
During today's live stream, we may show you what we like to call cool tools. These are tools and gadgets that we actually use and we believe will be helpful to you. If you are interested in learning more about these products, please see the YouTube description box for more information.
During today's live stream, we will be doing a giveaway. To be included in the drawing, be sure to include a hashtag on the screen in your comments during the live stream. So let's get started.
It says I have my little conductor's thing. Welcome everybody to our Talkin' RV Tech. We have Dustin and Zach from California RV Specialists. I said it right this time again. And we have Ashley in the background running all the controls. We're just puppets in here. And we've got people coming in already. I said Roger M. said hi, guys. And Jeff is there. I was at the Tampa RV Super Show last week, and we had almost 80,000 people. Last year was a record, but I think that was a pandemic-infused record of 84,000. But 80,000 people, and I tell you what, that's about enough, because you start getting that many people in one place, and the vendors were having troubles keeping up, and the dealers, people are everywhere. And I tell you what, they were buying parts like crazy. And so Dustin and Zach, how are things going at your location? We haven't talked for a little bit. We did a live last week from Lippert, but how's traffic and what are you seeing?
Well, weather's kind of back to normal right now, so that's getting better for us here. Industry in general is extremely busy. We're, a couple months out on appointments. The yard is completely full of, coaches that we're here taking care of. So it's doing what it should be.
Yep. Well,
everything I think is back up to normal.
Yeah.
Parts.
Yeah. They did post the official numbers for 2020. So, in 2020, they did 600,000 some RVs, and it was drastically down this year. And towards the end of the year, you were hearing all this, oh my goodness, it's all, but they still did 484,000, I think was the number that came out. So they were projecting way below 450 even, and so end of the year numbers, that's the third highest number of RVs sold in the history of keeping track of sales. Right. So, it was still a pretty good year, but like I said, I saw people walking out of Tampa with generators and stuff. And I think part of that is because, there's been this long period of time where you couldn't get parts, Yeah. I mean, you guys had some parts issues out there obtaining certain things, maybe not so much accessories, but still parts in general.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest, everything's kind of getting better. I mean, of course, prices have spiked on everything. It's not like it used to be. I feel like one of the hardest things that we're still coming across is awnings.
Yeah.
Like regular awnings, you're ordering whole tube assemblies, and it's taken 2 months to get them.
Yeah,
So,
I have a 2015 Thor Challenger that bent the arm and the fabric on the top, and it's a Carefree of Colorado, and I can't get them. I'm on hold for hours just to try and talk to somebody.
they're always rough. Yeah.
And I talked to one of their distributors, and he said, don't bother. They are having a tough time keeping up with their original equipment manufacturers, and so unfortunately, we're going to go a different route. And I'm not looking for free stuff. I'm looking to buy, and it's like, okay, we got a different way we're going to do it. So I have here.
Customer called it Magnum the other day for the inverters.
Yep.
And he was on hold for an hour and a half.
Oh,
got hung up on because it went to their lunchtime.
Yep.
No.
Yep. Well, and one thing I keep going back to Lippert. We talked about this last week, and every time I've called them, I even called them again yesterday on a question, and I got through, with very little wait time, and they are committed to customer service, that's for sure. So Bill Ellis is here's a battery question. I think he's saying, I have a 20-foot with a 12-volt refrigerator using things sparingly. How long could I expect one regular deep cycle battery to last? Is it doubled for 2? So go ahead, Zach. I'll let them, and Dustin, you guys, what do you think?
Not very long. I mean, it's kind of recommended to put 2 batteries in there from the get-go. What you're looking for on the batteries are like what the reserve capacity rating is, right? What your amp hour is rated at X amount. And keep in mind too, that it may say 100 amp hours, but like we've talked about on the show before, you really only get half of that rating. So whatever the actual compressor amperage draw is on that unit, you kind of have to figure that out for yourself. But I'm going to kind of throw out there right off the bat, throw another battery in it.
Yeah.
Don't start with one and test your luck. You're going to be disappointed.
Right.
And depending on how long you've had that other battery, it's not good to take a new battery and an old battery and mix them. They'll fight each other and it'll cause damage to it.
Yeah. There are so many variables when it comes to batteries. You get people ask, how long should that last? And first of all, is what amp hour rating do you have in that battery? You got one regular deep cycle battery. Is it a group 24, 27, 31? So is it 100, 120, 150? And you're right, you only get 50% of that. What condition is it in? You didn't say what year refrigerator, but if it's a 12 volt,
It's
newer. Yeah.
It's pretty new. It's an Everchill or a Norcold. Another variable in this, is it really a 12 volt converter, compressor driven refrigerator, or is it a residential that's taking 12 volt from an inverter?
Yep.
And if that's the case, that'll take twice as much power as a 12 volt. There was the Norcold and Everchill has done some testing on those, and you take a regular 120 volt, and both of them are going to draw about the same. That inverter is the weak link, that it's going to lose a lot of battery power just doing that. And then the part in here, using things sparingly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The other 2 factors are outside temperature.
Yep.
What's the weather like, and how often are you getting in and out of the refrigerator?
Yep. How often does it really cycle?
It looks like in the chat there, he's actually given us some information back.
Okay.
He says it's a 2022 Salem.
Okay.
What voltage reading will help me know if the battery is charging properly? At what reading do I need shore power? Currently have a battery that has some kind of liquid leak. Should I be replaced? So there's a lot of stuff in that one to unpack. How to know whether your voltage is charging properly. Different converters kind of charge at different things. Your average one is like 13.6 for a regular like lead acid battery. If it was a different kind of battery, they want to charge at a different rate. So that's kind of what you should be looking at. At what reading do I need shore power? Depends on whether you're trying to charge or run any of your AC operated things, then you need shore power. Does my battery has some kind of liquid leak? Are you sure that it's leaking battery acid? To me, it sounds like it's a pop top. Occasionally, if you're checking fluid levels and stuff, you will get that on. Make sure you just clean it up. If it's, you should be popping the top and checking them anyways. to make sure that that fluid level is not below the cells.
Right.
So,
Well, and typically, if it's that kind of a unit, it's going to have probably a WFCO, WIFCO converter that just does a normal 13.6. Winnebago's got theirs at 13.8, but 13.6, and you're going to get gassing, and with that, boiling, and with that, it's going to vent out of those caps, and you will see what looks like a leak or condensation, but it's that
normal, yeah.
venting. That's pretty normal, and then it starts to corrode in there. But now I would say if you do have some kind of a leak in there, get rid of that battery. I would definitely get 2 batteries, and take that multimeter and just verify where that charge is at.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff we've said in the past too, is the dealers are the ones that are providing those batteries to travel trailers and fifth wheels. So, a lot of times at the time of sale, they are not putting in a very expensive battery. They're putting in a box store, low brand battery. So check and see what type of batteries you have. And again, look into the whether you do 224s or you do 2 6-volts.
Yep.
Was it a fifth wheel or was it a pull trailer?
No, it's a little Salem 16.7.
Yeah.
So it's a little, probably
Class
little
A.
single axle travel trailer.
So try 2 6s is going to be equivalent to like 4.5 to 5 24s. Yeah. So, that's as far as what we tell everybody when we're using interstates. So,
yep. So I put this up here because this is Roger Marble. He AKA Tire Man. He is a retired tire engineer. I don't remember who he actually worked for, but any of the tire questions that's come in, he is the man. And so if anybody's got tire questions, Roger's on here and he can help us out. And he does a column. You've probably seen him in quite a few of the questions and stuff. So that's why I wanted to bring him up and say hello, Roger, and thanks for joining us today. The hashtag today is #happy. And next week we're going to give away Zach. So it's going to be #Zach.
#beard.
Well, and for those of you, if anybody joined us last week, the Lippert technician, Chris, had the same beard. He had a hat on, and you had a hat on last week, didn't you, Zach?
And glasses. We both, yeah.
Well, it looked like it was twins. I thought we were at a ZZ Top concert for a second. Dun, 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 dun. So, anyway, it was kind of funny. And we have the San Antonio 2 weeks ago. Loved it.
Yeah.
So we've got okay. We got some more questions coming up here. So let me get to those. And Marcia, hi from Ohio. What's the most? Here we have another cock question.
Yep.
So go ahead and I actually had an article about this. One of the questions that came in, I believe it was posted last week. But go ahead, Zach. And Dustin, what do you guys use?
Best thing is going to be bubble gum and duct tape. Just kidding.
Now, is that the sugar-free? Is that like the bubble yum?
Yes.
Or
it has to be. It
bubble
has to
yum
be
strawberry.
cotton candy bubble yum. It has to be
Cotton candy.
Yeah.
Right. Self-leveling bubble yum.
No, it's honest, Jonathan. Basically, depending on what type of roof you have, so like Dave has in his, what would that be? In his right hand, he has a self-leveling silicone that's basically for a fiberglass roof, and then in his left hand, he has Dicor lap sealant, and you can use that on both the TPO and our traditional rubber roof. But you really need to know what type of roof you have. Is it a PVC roof? There are some other odd brands that are out there. So, and if it's a PVC roof, that requires a special primer and a special sealant that most RV shops aren't going to have.
Yeah, that's knowing what you have will kind of guide you in the right direction.
Right.
That's the best bet. They make a bunch of different products, whether it's the Alpha products or the Dicor products. Dicor we use on pretty much any of that stuff. Yeah.
You can use Dicor in a pinch on a fiberglass roof. It's a product that requires maintenance.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you can tell by taking off of one of the roof vents inside the shrouds, and you should have some extra material tucked in. If you have the material is the same color on both sides, it's typically TPO. Dicor calls it theirs Diflex, I think it is. Yeah. If it has black on the backside, it's EPDM.
EPDM, yeah.
And then if it's fleece, it's usually Alpha. And then the new stuff, Extreme, is they call it PVC, but it's still a rubber.
Yeah.
membrane, but they're trying to get away from that rubber connotation that had problems in the past. So
If it's got a texture or feel to it,
It's like a basketball
yeah,
texture.
like a basketball, that's your TPO. And that's pretty much what's on most of the units nowadays. Yep.
yes. Okay, so let's go forward here. Pull some 20. Whoops. There we go. Montana. Ken says, okay, so here's our new Goodyear Endurance tires say 80 PSI, but I'm hearing 65 should be on our fiber. True or false? So Roger is going to have a tough time answering this, I guess. I just thought about it because he's not
We can see
live on here. So where is Roger at? Well, I guess, I just had Roger do probably this exact same question that he posted here a week or 2 weeks ago. And the marking on the side of the tire is maximum pressure at maximum weight, cold temperature, meaning not having gone down the road. So whatever ambient temperature you have, that's what they consider cold temperature before it gets on and starts heating up in there. And a maximum weight at maximum pressure at maximum weight. That's not necessarily the proper inflation. And I worked with the RV Safety Education Foundation for years, and Roger's written about this many, many times on it. And so what most manufacturers are doing now is they are giving you suggested pressures on the sticker on the side of, sometimes in the door jamb of trucks, sometimes on the side of tires. And in bigger RVs like motorhomes and fifth wheels, the only way you know how to put proper pressure in is to weigh the coach and see what kind of weight and individual wheel positions, so that you know what is on each one of those wheels, and then go to the tire charts. And every one of the tire manufacturer has a tire chart, and it says dual application or single application. Here's the tire brand. And, because you're not always running maximum weight in that RV, especially the big ones where you got 3,000 pounds of carrying capacity. And so if you put in what's on the side of the tire, it's going to bow that tire up, and you're going to have less tread on the ground. And so you want that maximum tread without being underinflated. So like let's take, for example, my truck, the original tires on it, and I've got 65,000 now. So I just put a set of Falcons on it, which I got a local guy that just loves and swears by them. And the old ones and the new ones both say 60 PSI on that tire. If I put 60 PSI in that tire without having anything in the back end of that thing, it runs down the road like Fred Flintstone's car. It's just boom, boom, boom. Mm-hmm. And so on the sticker on the side of the door, it says 35 PSI. So I put it down to 35 PSI. We went to Colorado, and it just drove like a dream. And so it all depends on how much weight is on that truck. So that, we'll see if Roger comes in a little far, but if you're hearing 65, that's probably because of the weight of that tire. All right. So the next one came in, before that one, I think we had one here from Ken. I have a Celium tires on my trailer. I've never heard of the brand. Should I be looking for replacements? I took it, it was kind of ironic because when I went to Hershey, I was trying to find out what tire brands most of them were using. I've always liked the Goodyear Marathons. Mm-hmm. That's been kind of stock for the trailers for many, many years, but I had a hard time finding two of the same in those. What do you guys put on?
We don't sell tires, but I think a lot of times about manufacturers when they're selling the tires and they're putting them on, obviously they're looking for the best price and the best deal, but still it comes back to consumer knowledge. If you're not checking the tires or you don't have a tire sensor, and if you're going to go full time, then I would say get a better quality tire. If you're just going to be the average person, and also if you're parked a lot, you'd say you buy it and you use it 2 times, 3 times in the year. Now that tire's just sitting there loading that weight on those bands the whole time. So
a lot of people
It's-
are like
A lot of factors.
yeah, a lot of the manufacturers were coming with the Westlakes. If you go on a lot of forums and stuff, you hear about all kinds of issues with these Westlake tires. And a lot of people have been changing. I don't remember if it's the Goodyear Marathons or the Goodyear Endurances. It's one of the two. And everybody seems to be pretty stoked on those. So,
Okay. So
Look
just
at the percentage of that too, right, Dave? So if there was somebody out there that was reading that, not defending them at all, but we only hear, whether it's the repair shop or the consumer, oh my God, my tire blew out. These are garbage, right?
oh yeah.
What percent is that? Is that 1%?
Yeah.
Is that out of, is that one owner out of every 100?
Well, and that's a good point. And I want to bring up real quick here, Roger, you were just sent an invite to join us as one of the moderators. So if you check your emails, you should be able to jump out of here, go back in that post and come on with us. And I did see he did leave a message on here, but I'd like Roger to come on. If you got access to camera and audio on your laptop or your phone or something like that. Sorry, it was on the YouTube. It crashed. Roger, Goodyear Marathons are old and has been discontinued and replaced by the Endurance. Okay, that's great. And I had heard of the Endurance for quite a bit of time. But I think you guys are right, in the fact that with the internet, all you hear about is when tires blow out.
mm-hmm.
I brought this up in my seminar the other day. When somebody was talking about the quality, and I said, well, I personally don't think quality right now is any worse than it has been over the last, 20 some years. It's just, I went out in 1988 with an 89 model year, and it was probably some of the worst quality I ever remember. There was all kinds of new products and new processes. It was when SPC first came in, statistical process control, and nobody knew how to use it. But if the numbers all look good, like this, that you were in control. Even if everything was garbage, you were in control, but you were in control of garbage. And then we had we called it Mindy board. Do you guys remember Mindy board? Mm-hmm. Okay, it the old way of laminating was to take styrofoam and Luan, and then sandwich that with the fiberglass outer skin and the inner skin. And so this company came out from Germany with a product called Mindy board, MENDE. And it was particle board that was epoxied together. So it created this really stiff, instead of Luan, which is a, an 1/8 inch fibers, basically wood fibers in there. And, they had it sitting in a sheet of water for like 5 years with no delamination, no nothing. It's supposed to be the greatest thing in the world. And so it was stiffer and more structured than Luan. But what happened is when that would go down the road and it would rub, those fibers would separate, and it's particle board. And you did lamination like you could not believe. And they went out of the business. And I had, my units were falling apart all over the country, but we were doing 200,000 units at that time, not 600,000. And we had no internet to speak of. I mean, it was starting back then, but there was no forums, there was no nothing out there. So you never heard about it. Well, and Zach, you remember in second grade in that year? No, I'm just. Yeah. I have underwear older than Zach.
Internet back then for you?
That's the problem. Yeah, but so I asked people in my seminar. I said, the thing about today's society is we've got so many forums and so many places to post all this stuff when something happens to it. How many here have ever posted that they took a trip and never had a problem?
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
Nobody. Yeah, you hear about all the bad stuff, and that's fine. But it's just you got to look at it in proportion to what's happening out there. So anyway, I think you're right. I think that the numbers are probably percentage wise the same, and I still go back to the fact that the biggest percentage of tire failures is people not taking care of them. They're not weighing their coaches. They're not checking their pressure.
I go back to Toll, the suspensions that we're using. Do the research. Check out the Roadmaster stuff. Check out the Moride stuff. Check out the Dexter stuff. Check out the slipper springs. All those different components, and they're still putting standard stock suspensions on them. Everyone, like the Roadmaster system that we sell here, they guarantee no matter what brand of tire, Dave, they don't care if it's the cheapest tire or the most expensive tire, just across the board.
Okay.
They guarantee that they'll last 25% longer.
Yep. All right.
And so-
I just got a text. Hold on.
Yep.
There's
Anyway,
Roger. All right, Roger. Thank you very much for joining us. So we just babbled on like a bunch of idiots here.
Okay.
So you are the experts. Tell us.
I'll be real quick on the Goodyear Endurance. Yes, follow the inflation on your certification label, which on towables is on the outside driver's side towards the front.
Yep.
The key is the inflation there is enough to support the Gower, gross axle weight rating. Goodyear Endurance line for a number of sizes has a higher load range, which means higher inflation than the tires that are being replaced. So go with your certification label. I've covered this in my blog and on RV Travel in the weekly column. So do some research on RV Travel back issues.
Yeah, I just sent you a question a week ago or so, and you hit on that. Yep. That's true. So what about you hear this all the time? Oh, those cheap overseas tires, and I won't say the name of the Chinese company, but tell me this. So here's a good question. How many of the major manufacturers, Goodyear and all the other ones out there, have their tires made in China even though now?
Many of them are. But here's the reality. RVs, and this is trailers and motorhomes. Over half of the RVs that have been measured have a tire or axle in overload.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's why you get tire companies not making tires for trailers, because they know that fact. Why would they do something when they know
You're going to ruin
they got a 50% chance the tires are going to be overloaded? That'll kill any tire.
How many of those do you think are underinflated?
80%.
Yeah, that's so common.
Yeah, you have 10 psi less than recommended pressure in that tire, and from what I got, researching with it started at Winnebago. We had tons of tire issues, and we had the Michelins were on the Class A's, and we had the Bridgestones on the Class C's, and they came in and said 10 psi less than recommended pressure, you reduce your carrying capacity by 25%. So
sounds about right. Without looking up the actual numbers, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So overloading the average. I did some research for a legal firm a couple of years ago. Most cars have a 30% reserve load. That means the tire capacity is 30% greater than the load put on the tires.
Yeah.
Most RVs have 0 reserve load.
And that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, and
in
my opinion, it goes back to the fact where these units sit side by side, and if one is $1,000 less than this one here, people gravitate to that. So manufacturers are trying to find any way possible to take $2, $10, $15 out of the stuff, because if you're not doing your research and you're not educating yourself, you don't know that tire is a better tire, or the axle is a heavier axle, or all that costs money. And if you're getting beat up at the dealership, the dealer's going, well, I can't sell your XYZ thing because it's $2,000 more. Well, it's so that's where you get into some of this stuff that they're using the cheaper and weaker components.
But if you have if you have an RV right now, it doesn't cost you anything to put air in it.
No. Well, nitrogen. That's not air.
Air is 78% nitrogen to start with, but just inflate.
The molecules in my head are smaller than yes.
Every time we do a insurance job for a tire blowout, which is pretty regularly, they're asking for the date code on the tire. They're asking us to check what the other tire pressures are when the unit came in. And they're actually asking if the customer saved the old tire. And what they're doing is they're taking that old tire back and assessing it or analyzing it or whatever, so they can turn around and, let's say it's AAA or State Farm or whoever, a big conglomerate, and go after those tire companies.
Yeah.
So
tires. The other thing that I see too often too is that, tire RV companies buy the axles from Dexter, Lippert, whoever, and people there's tire failures going on all the time because they're overloading the tires, they're underinflating it. I had the guy that we worked on his Raptor, and we weighed the coach and it was overloaded, and I told him that, and he goes, "Oh no, what blew all the tires out? All those cheap tires from overseas." And he went out and bought cheaper tires, with less load, because they go to these big box stores or these membership places, and I can get this XYZ tire for $40 less. It's like, but it's anyway. It's very frustrating when you see that, and then people complain that my tires blew out. Well, yeah.
One last thing before we jump off of tires. Make sure you guys are putting on #happy. I'm not seeing very many of them.
There were some up earlier, so
yeah, throw them on there.
Well, and the one guy said that he put hashtag on happy on there, and then said don't anybody else because he wanted to win. So that was it. So my joke of the day is, why can't the bicycle stand up? It was too tired. Tire joke. Sorry. All right, let's do another. Thanks, Ashley. 2018. 40. That's enough. During hard rain, it was wet underneath both sides of our bedroom.
It must be Chuck.
Okay. So after heavy rain, it was wet underneath both sides of our bedroom slide. Also, storage bay was wet. Could this be due to not being perfectly level? No water on the walls or ceiling. Well, even if you're perfectly level, in my opinion, your roof is designed to have drain off. So you get a hard rain on the top, even if you're perfectly level, somewhere it's going to rush to the sides. Most of them are crowned, so it's going to go on the sides. No water on the walls or ceiling, which, I'm assuming you're saying that inside there's no water. But the thing you got to remember is when you have, a unit built like this, here's your roof. If you have a leak at the roof to sidewall joint, it could run down this hollow seam here all the way back until it finds, and then you've got, these are hollow here. So you could get the leak that comes in from the top and down through here and never see it on the ceiling or on the sidewall. And it comes out the back. Cause if you're sitting stationary, in my opinion, there's no way water's going to hit the ground and come from underneath.
Yeah. A lot of times what we see is that it's coming in from the insert moldings on the side seams, exactly like what you showed on that.
Well, and another thing too, just to kind of throw it out there, just so everybody's on the same page, slide seals are not like 100% barriers that you're not going to get water inside. If you have crazy rain and sideways rain and all that stuff, a little bit's going to get in there, and you put on that it's on both, on the sides of your bedroom slide. There's a possibility, and if it was raining super crazy, that it may have just made it through the corners of the bottom there.
Yep.
And they tell you in the owner's manuals if it's too, like he's saying, too severe weather conditions, to run the rooms in, because they're not watertight.
No, in fact, you run the rooms out.
Conditioning the rooms,
you run the rooms out, and you can literally see daylight in corners in several different cases. Not every one of them, but several cases. So, okay.
Make sure you're using the appropriate slide out lube conditioners on the seals, and the more often, the better. That seal is very expensive. So for you guys that are watching right now, sometimes we can order 10 feet. Sometimes we can order no less than 200 feet.
Yep.
And so, make sure you're taking care of it, condition it, make sure it's protected.
Okay. So Bill comes back. You had recommended the 6-volt group. You need 2 of those hooked in series, positive to negative. That still gives you a 12-volt bank. But the thing is, keep in mind, when you do 2 6-volt batteries like that, you don't double your amp hours. You double your voltage. So you get to, even if you go to a group 27 or a 31, you still only have one that same amp hour version into it. The advantage of a group or a 6-volt that I have seen over the years is that they have a lot more cycles. They last a lot longer, but they're not going to give you more amp hours. But on the other hand, if they don't sulfate and they store better, 3 years from now they do. So anyway, but what and the group, I guess, you still got to go back to what am I using? How long? What's drawing? How long am I boondocking? So one of the things that I've always done is I send people to the Go Power website, gpelectric.com. They have a calculator. If you go in there and look at their solar panel system, there is no perfect science to this. There is no way you can sit inside your RV and know exactly how many hours you're going to use the lights and how many cycles your refrigerator is going to do. But at least it starts getting you thinking about what is drawing that power from there. And then you can do the calculations and say, okay, I'm going to go for 3 days and I got this refrigerator and a few lights, but what about my water heater, appliances? If I'm going to use that heater in there, that motor in that heater is going to draw a lot of power. So, that's the challenge that you have to look at.
We get a lot of owners too that, they'll use a generator when they go out and they're dry docking, and they think that, I'm just going to turn it on and let it run for an hour or two. That's not enough. We tell them, basically fire it up in the morning, let it run all day and shut it off. And then, like you're saying, monitor your usage. And you may not need to run that generator all day, every day. You may be able to have to do that every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. Now, if you have lithium batteries,
yeah,
you get 100% usage out of those amp hours. And when you plug that in with a lithium approved converter, you can charge those batteries up in less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of research done on that, and a lot of articles written in RV Travel on that'll tell you that then you can start your generator up and you can run it for a couple hours and you can recharge that. But no, otherwise your lead acid, you take 8 to 16 hours or more. So it's pretty bad. I just want to bring one other person up here. I see here that we have, where'd he go? Right there. That is Vintage Camper Trailers. Is Paul. Paul, welcome to our Talkin RV Tech talk. Paul is out of, I can't remember exactly where it's at in California, but he has got the Vintage Camper Trailer magazine and the boot camp and some really cool RVs out there. So we got hashtags.
Yeah, hit them all those hashtags, everybody. Hashtag happy.
I guess you hit it.
Dave, that would be something
load.
Come out to, Dave, is Paul's going to be having I can't remember what it's called, so maybe Paul can share it again. It's like a camp expo or something like that.
He called it boot camp for several years, and people come out and they have seminars on, renovating and doing stuff. But this year he's going to do an exposition or there you go. Go to vintagecampertrailers.com and there's information on it. It's going to have vendors out there and seminars. So not just vintage stuff, but, maintenance and upgrades and so forth. So that is here. So now somebody said here, isn't that the reason they have a rollaway roof for the slide outs? And I think when he says rollaway roof, he's meaning
slide out topper,
the awning over the top of it. But I think what we were talking about is the actual, so that would keep some of the moisture out of there. But more important, that you got a hard rain, that awning's not going to keep moisture out of there. It's going to get from the sides, and it's different areas. The awning, what we did at Winnebago is we put it on to keep debris from falling down, like sticks and acorns. It's because if you pull that in with that stuff on the top of it, it will ruin that seal, and you will have nothing but leak.
Roof membrane.
Yeah. So you don't have to have that awning, but if you don't, then you got to get up there and clean that every time you break camp.
I've actually done some test staves too with a thermal camera, and went in and checked with or without an awning.
Yep.
And just the heat difference alone, as far as California temperatures, having that's like being underneath an umbrella. So it not only is it going to reduce the interior temperature, you're protecting your flange seals, your roof surface, your wiper sill. There's a bunch of benefits to that. And we've seen several pictures over the years of, snow built up on them, rain built up on them. It doesn't hurt them. So they're made to retract, and expand for that weather. So.
Yep. All right, so we got another tire question. Roger, what are your thoughts on speed rating on tires? You should never speed, right?
Basically, RV application should be limited to a maximum of 75 miles an hour for any tire. Personally, I keep my Class C to 62. Speed rating is a 30-minute test. All that says is the tire will not fail when it's brand new if you run at that speed for 30 minutes. And there's a lot of places where you can hold 70 miles an hour for way over 30 minutes. So no, keep your speed down, max 75 ever. And
so they shouldn't be getting like Pirelli Z-rated speeds and run like 140 miles an hour?
No. How do you? Well, the thing is, if you look at ST type tires, and compare the size with an LT, the ST carries a lot more load.
Okay, Roger, explain what ST and LT
Special
is.
trailer. All right.
There you go.
People know your passenger comes with a P type tire, most of them. Your light truck comes with an LT type tire. That's the start of your tire size.
Thank you.
Trailers start with ST for the most part. Some RV manufacturers do put LT tires on the trailer, and that's fine. ST was invented back in the 60s when we were still on bias tires, and people didn't want to pay the money for an LT. So they came to the tire manufacturers, and one of the manufacturers came up and said, okay, we'll make this ST type, and it'll give you the 15% more load that you want, but you're going to have to give up speed. And it's in the load formula, the calculations we as engineers use, it says 65 miles an hour max speed. Now then, we got the speed rating put on tires, and that was done to address dumping of cheap tires from China. And the way the FTC wrote the law said, well, non-speed rated tires are going to have to pay a 25% duty. Well, the tire companies in China got around that, and within a matter of a month, every tire made in China all of a sudden had a speed rating on it. I can tell you, you can't do that.
Roger, can you tell us a little bit about tire life?
Tire life, basically,
or age, basically.
Well, okay, age, maximum 10 years, no matter what it looks like. Okay. I don't care if you inspect it every week, if you have a tire engineer inspect it every week, 10 years max, and it's done, no matter what it looks like. Because my eyes aren't X-ray. I can't X-ray a tire.
A lot of dealers around here, when they sell used units and stuff, they can't even sell them if they're over 7 or 5 or something like that. So
yes, because at 5 years, you should have the tire dismounted and inspected by a dealer of that brand tire. The RV dealers are not qualified to do that. Basically, I would advise RV trailers 3 years and replace them. If you have a motorhome, you're probably good for 6 to 8. I replaced mine at 6.
How about rotation?
You can rotate a tire if you have an irregular wear situation, but you're not going to gain anything because you're probably going to replace it before it wears out. So irregular wear isn't an issue.
Yeah.
Irregular wear can be warning you that you have an alignment issue with your axles. I see pictures frequently online because I follow half a dozen to a dozen of the various RV forums, and people will post pictures and say, what's wrong with my tire? And it turns out it's alignment.
Yep. Well, and weight too. It's not uncommon for these bigger rigs to be 1,000 pounds heavier on one side or the other due to the generator and the refrigerator being there.
Yes.
And then we store
that's been documented.
Yeah, we
1,000 pounds. You get an axle weight at a truck scale, and then you divide by 2. Well, no, I suggest maybe 53%, 52, 53%. And if you have a residential refrigerator, you might go to 54, 5% of the total on the axle for the heavy end. And that's the load you use when looking at the load inflation tables.
Yeah.
I cover this, and I know I've covered it sometime on my weekly post on RV travel.
Yep.
People can go and up at the top of the page, go to the maintenance and service and maintenance posts. And that's where Dave's posts end up, but you can go up there and go through all the list of all the posts and find the posts on tires.
Yep.
And I bet you I've answered the question. And you'll
yeah.
find links to my blog, and I've got over 500 tire posts, and I'll almost guarantee you I have covered the topic.
Nope. Yeah, you have. I just wanted to bring it back up again. And,
Yep.
you know, one of the things, I was just down in Tampa and I talked with Freightliner and asked them if they'd changed any of their, you know, rotation recommendations and anything like that. And they said, have you ever rotated a tire on a diesel pusher? I said, no, I kind of couldn't imagine doing it. He goes, it's quite a task. And we only recommend that you inspect the tires. And when you see a tire wear, that you can rotate it at that time. But they made the same comment. By the time you see tire wear, it's time to change that tire, you know, to a point. But that does indicate, you know, you got something happening to that tire. So, all right. So let's go back. We got a couple more comments. I store my coach. No, I've got here we go. 08 Forest River, Georgetown, Dometic. And we're at, you know what, before we get to this one, Zach and Dustin, want to do cool tools?
Sure, go ahead.
Before we get too far? All right. So we'll let you go first with yours.
So this here is something that I don't know if you classify necessarily as a tool. It's something we use here. And it's good to have with you. There's times that you go out to places and the water spigot is damaged. This allows you to attach to that damaged or crushed or stripped water spigot and still connect your water hose to it. Our facility here, some of the buildings are a little bit older, and we actually have a spigot here that we use this constantly because the spigot it's not really, it would take way more to replace it than it is to just put one of these on there.
Yep.
They're relatively cheap, and they allow you to connect to a lot of different things too. Like even if you have a standard faucet and you need to fill a bucket of water, you can connect this to the faucet and then connect a hose down and fill a bucket of water. So
Yep. Well, I know there's been a few times that, you know, I inadvertently backed over my hose,
And you can connect them
you
together.
know, and ruined flattened or ovaled, I guess it was the connector. So you could put this in and make it work. Okay. So I've got one.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Dustin.
No, I was just going to say a question we get all the time is they ask why they don't put a clamp in it to clamp it down. It's not designed to be a permanent fix.
Right.
It's just designed to, like some parts we go to. There's a one that's up in Strawberry that we go to, and there's no water. It's non-potable water, and they just let you fill it up by bucket. Well, at night we'd sneak over there and hook it on there and get the water to our tank, you know. So for those campgrounds that, like you said, have a damaged thread or whatever, they're not designed to be permanent.
Right. So it's not like Jed.
Yep.
It's not a clamp it.
Yeah, not a clamp it.
All right. So this is gas stopping, and we've featured this many, many times. This is my cool tool that I'm talking about. So it is a 100% gas leak stop device. It goes either on your ASME tank or your DOT cylinders or even your grill, which would have a DOT cylinder. But I just met with Martin, the owner of this company from overseas, and then Mike Ray was there too. He's got the North American gentleman. And the interesting thing about this is that it can also help detect a gas leak. You know, it will shut down if you have, you know, a major leak coming in. But the little dial at the top here, and I am going to take this off and show you mine that I have here. So this happens to be one that would go on a POL. But this little dial up at the top, you push this down, and that will give you what pressure is in your dial in here. And then you shut your tank or your cylinder off, and you come back an hour later. And if that needle has moved, that tells you that you've got a leak somewhere down line, rather than putting on a water column tester or it's kind of like a manometer, not exactly in it, but it's a great way just overnight, to check that before you leave for your trip or whatever. I think it's a pretty cool piece to have. And so there's where to find that out. All right, so let's get back to, I have an 08 Forest River FR Georgetown Dometic refrigerator with E1 code soon, as soon as I turn it on. And what's an E1 code, Zach?
I don't remember offhand. I don't remember any of the codes.
There's so many different ones.
What?
I think there's 8 or 9 of them on the Dometic refrigerators.
Right. Well, and it also depends on the refrigerator too. I mean, there's
What's the most common code?
Yeah. E1, if I remember correctly, E1 is a fairly common code. And I think, do I have a phone a friend left, or what lifeline do I have? So anyway, I think it's low battery.
Yeah.
From what I remember correctly. And it could be, and what causes this, if you're running it off, it's strictly battery power. If you're not plugged in, then, your batteries can fluctuate. If you have, bad batteries, you can get that little fluctuation out of it as well. So if it does it as soon as you turn it on, the thing that I've always said is, number one, when you have a refrigerator, which I'm assuming this is an absorption refrigerator, runs on 120 and LP, that you run it on both modes and try, does it do it on gas and does it do it on electric? And if that's the case, if it does it on electric, you're plugged in, then it's not the battery, then it's something else. So,
and he's saying as soon as it comes on too, and go on to Medic's site, look up your model and serial number. When you open up your door, there's going to be a sticker that's located on the right hand side of the frame.
Yep.
Go online and look up that model and serial number to get that troubleshooting chart.
Well, and you should have it in your owner's manual too.
Yeah, in case sometimes they don't provide it, but in case
it's no wait. So that it may be long gone by now, but I know I can go in and find the codes on just about any Medic and Norcode that's out there.
Yeah.
So prize giveaway coming up soon. I think I've got. So Roger took off. He had to go to lunch, but we do appreciate him being with us. So I think it's time for us to do the hashtag. I think we have everybody else that's gotten in here now. Gotta go. Guess I missed my answer. Facebook guy. So let's go. Marcia, congratulations, Marcia. You get the vintage camper LED lights. And if you would just send your address to editor@rvtravel.com and Chuck will get those out to you. So we got
messaged me the other night asking me what we were going to be talking about if we had a particular topic. And so it's pretty much like you're seeing now. It's an open forum, but there are going to be times where we're going to come on and have different topics to talk about.
Yep. All right. So Charles says, I store my coats for 6 months in the winter. You're lucky, Charles. Winter here is all year round. We were lucky summer came on a weekend this year. My lead acid batteries on their 8th year. That is amazing. And has little duration. Well, that's no plans on solar. Will lithium hold up during storage? So I'll let you guys take that, and then I can jump in.
So it depends on your system. So lithiums are kind of notorious for not doing too well in cold. So I don't know what your winter is. Once they drop below a specific voltage, they kind of like cut out and they have to be like jumped to be brought back. Some of the systems will have an internal battery management system, whether it's like some of them it's a push button, like you can push button on top of the battery and it livens the battery back up. So possibly it can, but it depends upon where you're storing it, what your winter is. That's kind of my advice.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of research on lithium because we put 2 of them in this store out here and talked with Expion 360, which you see behind me right there.
And they give free jelly beans with their batteries. I don't know if you guys know that or not. If you buy their batteries in the boxes, there's jelly beans.
In the Expion 360?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, you didn't share any with me either. It must have been good.
The number one reason to buy Expion.
Jelly beans.
Jelly beans. No, and I worked with Joel out there. And the battery management system is a must in cold weather, because you get down, and Winnebago had a real problem when they were putting these lithiums in little B vans, the Mercedes stuff, and they leave them outside. And if you get below freezing temperature, that battery, if that charger kicks on, you will ruin the lithium battery. So if it has a battery management system, it'll do one of two things. It will either not charge, and then you're stuck, and so you have to jump that battery, to warm it up and get it going again. Or number two, they have a heat pad that is just a 12 volt, basically a wiring thermistor in there that the battery management system will kick that heater on just to get it above freezing and then do that. The thing I always ask people is that, how much are you really going to dry camp? I would not spend the money for lithium if I'm going to be hooked up to an electrical source, campground source, 75, 80% of the time. You're going to spend a lot of money for those things. Granted, they're guaranteed or warranted for 10 years. So if you're going to keep your coach for that long, you'll probably pay for, they'll be worth the price of them. But you got to be careful in cold weather that, one or two things. You either got to have that heat system in it, or what we did with this one, you can't see them, but those two lithium batteries are sitting right down here in a warm environment. And when it gets above freezing next July, we're hoping the 4th it's above freezing, they'll go back in. But that's the thing you got to be careful with. So, all right, where are we at here? Why would my RV manufacturer in 2023 move the leveling hydraulic pump from accessible battery bay to under the coach located between the left and right rear jacks? Makes access very difficult. And I just had that. This might be the same guy. I just had a question that came in. He couldn't find his leveling jacks motor. And I said, you should be, they run the slide room and the leveling jacks. And so I said, when you're running that extension retraction of either one, you should be able to hear that motor. And sure enough, there, he sent me a picture. He said, yeah, I found it. It's underneath in this open compartment. And it was between the two jacks, sitting out in the open, and wires hanging everywhere. And I thought, wow, that's a gremlin waiting to happen from road debris, whatever. So I don't know. What are you guys seeing?
Well, to answer the question as to why, it's probably easier for them. Maybe they needed to use that compartment for something, or maybe they were getting complaints about storage and they wanted to add more, so they moved it out. But yeah, 100%. A lot of manufacturers, unfortunately, are gonna. It's about you, the end user, using the product, not necessarily about the people repairing the product. And yeah, you do find exactly what you're saying is, hey, I cut 4 feet of wire and I only need a foot of it. Well, I already cut it. I'm going to use it anyways. And then it's just hanging everywhere. And yeah.
Well, normally it wraps around and zip ties, but then the zip tie breaks.
Yeah. So that's pretty common to see. Mm-hmm. The only thing is, like you said, you were able to locate it. So now when you do bring it in for service or whatever, you can tell your service advisor or service technician, hey, here's where it's at. And it saves you the extra labor of them having to go and try to find it.
Yeah.
Yep. I think a lot of times what I see with something like that is that they're getting beaten up at the show, comparing to other ones where, so here it is. One guy opens up all these compartments and they're all wide open and you can put all this stuff in. And so then this manufacturer, you open up the compartment and there's one full of a hydraulic pump and fluid and reservoir and all this kind of stuff. You can't put anything else in there.
Yep.
And so, there's somebody, the dealership is saying, hey, move that pump and give me some more storage in there. I don't need access to that pump. Well, you do. You got to check the reservoir tank. And so they hide it somewhere else. It's just like that WIFCO that was in our Thor. It was underneath the bed. You clear up the front little access panel. And I mean, it's just, they don't have to work on them. Yeah. And, that's the thing. We've got more storage because you don't even think of why. So there's a lot of things that happen when you don't see it. So we got quite a few people that have gone in and Google searched the E1 code, is for usually related to an LP valve or LP delivery system, which, according to Charles, he said, Corey, he said it does it on both modes. You know, we asked, does it do it on 120? Does it do it on? So it really can't be a gas valve
Yeah.
if that refrigerator doesn't work on both of them.
Call Dometic.
Yeah.
Call Dometic tech support.
Yep.
They're probably not sensing the flame, or there's probably some metal flake that's dropped on the electrode. It's making
Yeah, but even if it's not doing it, if it's doing it on 120,
Yeah, it's doing it on both.
you know, then there's no flame, there's no gas valve opening, there's no.
Yeah, but if there's ash that's making it automatically ground, as soon as that sense is sensing for any temperature instamatically, it's sensing it on the ground and it's causing it to go to that mode.
I guess, you know, the thing that I would look at is I would take one of those, you know, an air gun and go in, clean that whole burner assembly, clean all the electrodes in there, make sure that, and then test your thermistor. You know, you can pull that little temperature sensor out, you put it in a glass of ice water to simulate getting down to 32 degrees. And then you just take a meter and it will tell you what the ohms should be in your owner's manual. And, you know, that way you can kind of isolate that stuff before taking it in, then call Dometic. And you're right, there's a good number for them. So Lee and Bert say, how can I tell if my converter works with AGM and lithium batteries, or is it best just to swap the converter part out for lithium when I upgrade to lithium?
So pull the model number off the converter. Every distribution panel or converter or whatever has a model number for it, and that model number will tell you, or you will be able to get in contact with whoever makes it, whether it's Truco or whoever, and they'll be able to tell you. So all your normal stuff should work pretty much with like AGM and down. See, there's a WIFCO 55. That's just typical deck mount regular converter. They'll work with AGM down. It's really the lithiums is where it changes.
Anything under 2 years old is going to, or maybe even 1 year old.
Yeah.
Well, and check out our, you know, we've got several articles on this that we've done. You know, we did quite a bit of research when we swapped out these lithiums that we had. The converter in it, that WIFCO does 13.6 until the batteries get to 12.6 volts. Then it drops down to 13.2. That will only charge lithium batteries to about 70% of their capacity. Lithium batteries want 14.6 volts to charge them up. So that's the main thing. The other thing you got to look at is, you're right, you know, your converter in there, if it's a multi-stage converter, it goes to 16, you're gonna burn those lithiums right out. And so you can't just swap that in. So you're right, Zach, that you definitely need to go in there and find out what kind of converter you got in it and what it's designed for. You know, and some of them will actually have, and I can't remember the code, but it's a self-regulating, or, you know, it senses what battery you have in there.
Auto detect,
Auto detect, AD. That's like me, ADT. So, okay. So why can't your nose be 12 inches long, Zach?
Why?
Because then it'd be a foot. All right. Okay. We are running.
Very funny.
All right. We got the Dometic. So could you speak on the same battery issues for AGM? Go ahead, guys.
I don't, you know, as far as I know, I don't feel like they have the same issues that the lithiums have. They don't, like a lot of like Airstream Class Bs and whatnot. The batteries are all underneath the unit, hanging upside down. They're completely like capable of handling all that stuff. Lithiums are, if you're a dry camper and you want optimum power all the time, that's why you pick lithiums. If you're your normal Joes and you're wanting just a better battery that you don't have to maintenance and everything is, then that's when you start looking at like sealeds or AGMs. That's the point between the two.
Yep.
And this comes back to the whole same thing, internet, Facebook, all that, you know, they hear lithium and we just gradually go to that's the best. And a lot of times you know, when they come in, we're really like, is that really what you need? Have you researched it? Do you know what's your plans, what's your intentions? And most of the time, like you're saying, Dave, we find, you know, you don't need that.
It's not what they actually want.
No.
Yeah. Yep.
No, that is true.
Save you a bunch of money and spend it on something else.
You're right. You're right. That's 5 times the money if you're not boondocking.
It kind of reminds me of like the flat screen TVs too. You know, look how cheap they are now and how much they were. So 5 years from now, we'll all go lithium, right?
I would imagine it will. Technology is changing. You know, the only thing with lithium is getting the materials that have to go in the cells, and you know all the battles that are going on with that. But you know, everybody talks about how green that is. But you know, I've been reading about all these lithium mines that you know we're trying to go into Wyoming and different places, and all the environmentalists and all you know what they're digging up, and it's like, okay, what's the best answer? I don't know. So with that, it looks like we're all out of questions. Bill, I'm glad you learned a lot tonight, and we bring your questions back, and we had a pretty good meeting. So next Wednesday, hopefully I am going to Orlando, and I am going to find a place out in the sun to do this from. I won't have this lovely backdrop here, but I will have warm weather, green grass.
I want to see a sandy beach
And
with like
iguanas. That place has tons of iguanas for some reason.
Iguanas. Huh.
Yeah.
Not at where I'm staying.
Oh,
We have a no iguana policy at our place. So anyway, all right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great rest of the week, and we will see you back here next weekend or next week.
For joining
Wednesday.
us on today's live stream. If you think today's content was helpful, let us know by hitting the like button or share it with a friend.
We'll be right back here next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We hope to see you then.